record on this to record the next one. Okay, so the next step then in our sales funnel cycle is directly tied in with what we would consider what. So this is where I kind of not necessarily made this up, but I think these are things that I think if we really understand the process, we can totally nail this. And this is what I call the 4 E's. Oops, the 4 E's of social media. Now so the objective, the overall objective of this would be consideration, right? So now that we've built an element of awareness, people know a little bit about who we are. Now we need to start building an element where they consider doing business with us. So we've built a relationship to some extent, and it's a superficial relationship in some context, but at least they're paying attention. Now we have to start moving them down the funnel and giving them specific things in order to help them take those actions. So that's where I call the 4 E's of social media. Any guesses as to what those are?
I do.
Okay.
I want to have Anna actually take a stab at it before, because I know some of this stuff already.
Okay.
But go ahead, Anna.
Anna, what would you say?
Sorry, I was just talking with Chelsea. I'm having a phone call with her, so I'm a little bit so consideration.
Tell Chelsea you'll call her back when you're done with this training, because this is more important than her call right now.
Okay. Yeah.
I want to make sure you're trained with this.
Yeah. So 4 E's of social media. I don't know, maybe engagement.
Yeah, that's one of them for sure. Okay, what's another one?
I don't know. I just from top of my head, I cannot think of anything that starts with E.
Go ahead.
So there's something that Russell talks about. He's talking about this education mixed with this entertainment.
Right. Yeah.
And then I don't know if the last one you're looking for is like, it's like a motivation. I would say like empowering people, like inspiring people to like actually move forward. And it kind of comes in what Russell talks about with his 1 sentence persuasion.
Yep.
And it's this empowering. So engagement, what Anna said, educating, entertaining, and then empowering.
Yeah, so I tie that empowering into what I would consider experience.
Okay.
Right? What's the end experience that we're giving to people in order for them to begin creating an emotional connection or emotional intelligence? Like you said, motivational content can build that, right? Really high quality one-liners can call, so all of those things that can definitely be considered in that. So if we're beginning running these, what type of objectives would we run inside of this? And I want to break that down. So engagements, you're exactly right. Creating engagement. So now is where you're starting to ask or create a call to action for those people we're trying to get in front of. Right? You have, hold on a second. There's somebody trying to find me. So yeah, creating engagement, building levels of education. And this is where I believe that this is where the lead magnet strategy starts coming in, where you're building even more education and you're giving people something without any expectation of having anything in return, right? And then you have entertainment, which is, we want to, and I think Russell even says this, but I've heard the term edutain, right? Education, entertainment at the same time. Build an element of excitement. And if you ever watch Russell Brunson's videos, the guy is completely entertaining. I mean, he's a brilliant presenter. He says way too many times. It drives me nuts. But he knows how to capture the attention because it's always real and authentic and raw. And that's where that content really starts to drive more conversions, is in this aspect, right? It's raw, it's authentic, it's real. And that's where the 4 E's really come into consideration. So inside of a consideration objective, again, if I'm going to go create an ad, Let me go back here and share my other screen with you for a second. So inside consideration, we have all sorts of objectives. We have a traffic objective. We have an engagement objective, app install, video views, lead generation, and messages. Okay? So these would all be things, again, that you might start driving traffic to a blog post, but who knows? You're not necessarily trying, again, this is like your first date or your second date potentially with your spouse, significant other. So this is where you're starting to begin that relationship and think, okay, what am I doing here that I could further, ask for a third date or a fourth date or so on and so forth, right? So these would be the objectives: traffic, engagement, video views. You might have app installs. We haven't done much with apps, but app installs, lead generation. And quite honestly, it's funny because lead generation inside of a consideration metric, in my mind, there's a little bit of a disconnect. I believe lead generation needs to be inside of the conversion objective, because I believe that many times inside of consideration objectives, if you're trying to generate leads, then you're asking again too early for that business. Now, that being said, as long as it doesn't really matter what column it's in, depending on how you leverage the actual objective.
It could also be a ManyChat as well.
Right. That's right.
So if it's under consideration.
That's exactly right. Yep. So hold on a second. Okay, so so these are the objectives, traffic. So let's talk about a little bit about each objective and what do they actually mean, right? So in this case, what is a traffic objective, or what's the end goal of a traffic objective?
It's to drive people to where you want them to go.
That's right. It's to, and what is the,
yeah, to get the lowest cost per click with your, marketing to your target audience.
That's right. So a traffic objective in and of itself, if I highlight over the objective, is to send more people to a destination on or off of Facebook, such as a website, app, messenger, conversation, so on and so forth. So it's not to convert that traffic, it's to direct people to a different location. Now, that might be a landing page for conversion, but it might also be in the beginning just driving traffic to a blog post to give more education, drive traffic to a video of some sort to give more education, right?
Mm-hmm.
So who's our audience in terms of this specific marketing objective?
These would definitely be more of a lookalike custom conversion audience. They're also very targeted, layered audiences. People who like so and so fan page also use so and so software, also follow so and so, right?
Yeah.
And it's definitely a more targeted audience.
Yeah. And how can we leverage the brand awareness campaign to build this audience?
So this is more of the remarketing part as well. So people who have already engaged with this, say if we have 25% of people view our video, we're gonna do a remarketing campaign to target those people who watched 25% of that video.
That's exactly right. So if we go back to the KPIs, right, we look and see we can build custom audiences. So you look at like you said, build custom audiences based on engagements that have happened in our brand awareness campaigns, or custom audiences based on video views, based on a 50 or a 75% video view audience, right? So you're right. This is the beginning of the remarketing campaigns.
So with this also, when does it become inefficient to target as far as like a video view watch? Like do we start at 50%? Do we start at 25%? If we even get like a 10-second video view, like when do we start the remarketing?
That's a
Like,
great question. Now, I would identify that depending on the length of the video view, right? If you have a 30-second video, then we want at least 75% of the video view watch,
Okay.
right? If it's a 60-second, then you may go down to a 50% video view watch. You want people to engage at least, I would say 20 seconds is the minimum.
Okay.
Because the 10-second video view, they're not really paying attention. Potentially, but not really, right? If they're watching it for a good 30 to 40 seconds, then you know you have people that have paid enough attention to remarket and retarget to those specific individuals.
Gotcha.
Right?
I also have a question. How fast do you need to retarget them so they still remember your ad?
Right away. You want to build these remarketing and retargeting ad campaigns right away. As a matter of fact, one thing to consider is if you have an email list audience, before you even start running brand awareness campaigns, and you know that this is a good audience and you build a lookalike, I would consider running a marketing campaign against that so you can start building some of the social proof on the actual ad so that when you start running brand awareness campaigns and they see those videos, they're auto-populated through that custom audience into the consideration campaign, and there's already momentum that's happened on that consideration video. So it builds an element of social proof that it's not just a brand new video that they're seeing, but there's other people that have engaged with that prior to you engaging with them from an ad product. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's like leading someone to Amazon for the first time. If you're a brand new seller and have no reviews, that's a scary thing because they don't understand from a social perspective that you're brand new. And so they're thinking there must be a problem with this seller because they don't have reviews. And as a result, I'm not willing to be the first person to be that guinea pig or that scapegoat to see if this process works effectively. So that's why we would potentially run a consideration or remarketing ad campaign in the beginning to build that value prop and build equity of that specific ad product and social proof on that ad product. So when the brand awareness campaigns begin, now when they're led into that instantaneously, now you have a new audience of people that are a lot more likely to convert than on the flip side.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's a nightmare for any Amazon seller when you're just launching a product and you have no reviews and your conversion is not going to be very high because you don't have any reviews, and you're not going to get reviews because you don't have any sales.
That's right.
Because nobody's buying because you don't have any reviews.
That's exactly right. It's a vicious cycle. And so how we combat that is we build social proof into a consideration campaign through education, experience, entertainment, however we can do that. And then the actual content that's on that page is a social proof aspect. And quite honestly, it's better to run, these campaigns first, again, so that we can start building that. Because then, think about it from a psychology perspective. If I go to a page or if I see another ad from a similar company that I first learned about, and there's a ton of engagement on that, just because of the engagement on that, I'm a lot more likely to pay attention to that actual ad product.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've heard that some agencies actually, before they do this brand awareness, they do a engagement campaign and they target not US, but some third world countries where you can get engagement for super cheap, and they I don't really like that, but
I've heard that as well. As a matter of fact, one of the guys at Traffic and Conversion talked about that. One of the owners of Traffic and Conversion talked about building an audience of just from a numbers perspective by leveraging India and Australia and Canada, because their cost per engagement is a lot lower. He actually talked about that at Traffic and Conversion. It's kind of unique.
Yeah, so you're basically building this fake social proof.
Yep.
And you're leveraging it on the brand awareness page.
Well, it's the exact reason why Amazon cracked down on fake reviews.
Yep, exactly. Yeah.
So they're manipulating Facebook's ad product in order to get those likes.
Yeah.
The reality is those superficial likes might look good from an agency perspective for their customer, but for the end business, it does them no service. Right? Well, I mean, it might. I don't know. I guess I have a split opinion about that because I can see having social proof on that. But the problem is, if you have someone that understands social and they go and look at the likes that are there and they're all from a foreign country, then it feels like a total bait and switch.
Yeah. But on the
Right.
other hand, also, there's many people who don't want to be the first one to
That's
comment
exactly right.
or
That's exactly.
like. Yeah.
And that's where if you're not, if you're running a consideration campaign and you're not asking for business, if it's more of a lead magnet download, that's really where the value play comes into place, because then you can get a really good cost per acquisition because or cost per engagement, because you're really opening up something for free to give value, and people are a lot more likely to accept free value than they are to purchase anything on the front end.
Yeah.
So that's where the lead magnet aspect comes into play, right? So good. Yeah, great conversation. I mean, this makes a lot of sense. So let's talk about the type of content. What type of content then inside of a consideration campaign would make sense?
Freebies.
That's right. Yep. Freebies, lead magnets. What about like blog posts, right? With more content. This is where you can ask people to engage with your content, right? You can ask specifically if it's a video. You know what? Drop us a comment below if, drop this in or that in, because then we can start triggering that and Adam, and I'll have you work with Anna as well with the ManyChat stuff, right?
Yeah.
That's where you can begin that ManyChat sequence. Ask them for a specific action, deliver a lead magnet through ManyChat, and now you're building an amazing active audience on ManyChat of people that will engage with your content.
Yeah,
Because they've
I'm
already taken that action.
so excited to be involved in some of this ManyChat campaigns. Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, it's amazing what can happen with ManyChat, because your open rates are 80 to 90% with like a 20 to 30% click-through ratio.
Yeah.
Mind-blowing what the results can yield. Okay, so
especially if you're running like messenger objective.
That's
and
right.
Somebody clicks on the message, and then they see, let's say, 5 options of questions that are already pre-written. So they basically just pick the question that they would like to ask. So it just ease so much for them to like this journey and speed it up.
Yeah, and what's cool about it is you can really build a nice automated relationship to some extent with those people based on understanding the questions in the sales process. And that's where one thing we haven't done a very good job with, Adam, and I think you and Anna can really help us define this, is we need to get better. We have to get better at understanding the sales process with the companies that we're working with. What do the salespeople tell their customers, and how do they close a deal? Because if we understand that, then we can leverage the proper questions inside of ManyChat to drive a really cool sales experience, so that it's not different than the actual sales experience they'll have when they engage with the company itself outside of SSP.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, so what's the sales? What do the sales look like in terms of the call to action?
This is sign up now. It would be, I wouldn't even say, I guess you could say learn more. I'm not a fan of that, because if that's what you want, well, I guess that's what you want them to do, but
sure,
is learn more. But if it's very specific, that's sign up now or book now, or whatever it is, whatever action you want them to take on the following page.
That's right. Yep. Yeah, and this is where the correlation, Anna, with Adam is going to be fantastic, because obviously the number one thing we have to understand from a ad product perspective is that the language behind our ad product has to sync in with the language behind the landing page. Otherwise, Facebook's going to look at that and say, oh, these are different, therefore we're not going to give you the exposure.
Yeah, definitely. And the conversion's going to be lower because yeah, like people click on the ad and then they don't see what they expect in a landing.
That's right. That's right. And that's why Facebook wants to create that uniqueness. So yeah, so your call to action. Now this isn't going to be like a hard call to action still. This is what I would call like a warm to medium call to action of, let's get them to take an action, right? Let's get them to do something that's not necessarily saying I'm pulling out my credit card to buy right now, but it's a warmer action of, learn a little bit more about us, engage with us. We're going to educate you more, so come find out what we're doing. We're going to create an experience, or we're going to entertain you, so do more business with us, right? So that would be the consideration aspect of our ad product. Any other questions on this? So then what are the KPIs here?
Cost per download.
Yep. Right. Now, what do we know about the reach, in terms of reach here with a consideration campaign?
I'm going to guess it's going to be lower because
right.
we are more targeted.
Yeah, it shouldn't be less maybe than for local audience, I don't know.
Yeah, so you want to try to be around that $5K per $100 spent. It is more or less a more engaged audience, so you're more likely to be a lower reach aspect, but you really want to still shoot for that 5K to make sure that and again, obviously your relevance score, right? You want to make sure your relevance score is still high. You want to look at your clicks, your cost per click. You want to identify what your cost per action is again. Your cost per action. Just going to put it CPA. Where are these people in terms of relationship to you? So what's the traffic look like? Are we warm? Are we hot? Are we cold?
We're definitely warm.
Hopefully not cold.
Yeah, hopefully we're not cold or we did something wrong. But yeah, so this is going to be more of a warm audience. Great. So that would be the consideration campaigns that we run through our ad product. So I'm going to stop this again, and then we're going to